Okay, I want to talk about the critter spawner quickly. This guy's there's only gonna be a couple of them in the game, and then they're gonna be responsible for spawning all the critters as you move around in the game. Currently there's like 20 of them, and they all spawn only a few, so I've refactored that to only have one, and it's a little bit more optimized. Let's quickly just want to show a demo here. Come on. So as you move around, you'll see now there's going to be a couple of critters that pop in. So these are all now managed in a single place, instead of having a whole bunch of them spread around. And then the silver flock, you can use them for protection, blend with them and swim with them, etc. And then as they get cold, they'll actually get destroyed, and then new ones will spawn depending on where you are. Depending on where you are. These jellyfish. And which direction you're facing. So just want to open up another map here. I can enable some more debugging, and then just show the class where this was started from. So I started with a C++ class that contains a few variables here. Basically the minimum maximum amount to spawn. Then it has a cycle, so you can set how many seconds must pass before it will do this work again. And then a min and max distance from the player to spawn, and then you can tell it which actors you want it to spawn. And then here's a callback. So here it is, spawnable actor classes. This is actually a blueprint event. Spawnable actor classes is where you specify which actors you want to spawn, classes you want to spawn, and then the blueprint will do a callback to the C++ class to indicate if the spawn was successful. Then you can, it manages this list, and it's just a simple reusing any previous actors in that array that have died since are just getting replaced. Otherwise the list is just getting built. So this list never gets any bigger than the maximum specified here, actors in a group to spawn, and then in the tick event is where it does all the work. It's really simple. It's not a very complex class. What it also does is it provides the blueprint with an initial location where I'd like the critter to spawn, or groups of critters to spawn, using the character forward from the player controller, the character forward, actor forward vector, and then just scanning from the location where I'm now scanning forward for a random distance between that min and max distance from player specified. And this is the wrong level. I can't hold it true. Oh, so I'm gonna zoom off here quick. Look, whatever. So then they have these values here. I'm gonna switch debug on, and then I just quickly want to show the blueprint. What are we doing here? In the begin play, I set a random tick interval between 3 and 7 seconds just to offset them, so that they don't all just pop in all at the same time, because it looks weird. And then let's see. So the C++ class is then going to be doing the work, and then invoking this spawn actor from the spawn actor of class event for that location, and this function here is then responsible for deciding what it wants to do. Here's some debugging, and this it then calls this find suitable location. And this function is a little complicated, but it's not that complicated. It does a random adjustment on the X and Y axis from the location that it got in. It then tries to get a location on the same z-plane as the character, so it's ignoring the character's pitch effectively, and then it's adjusting the Oh, the adjustment isn't happening here. Then it's using those values and just shooting a sphere, doing a sphere trace. Hold on. Sphere trace from 5,000 up from where the character Z is and 5,000 downwards. And that's just debugging, just setting some debug variables in. And that sphere trace tests against wall static, not wall dynamic. And then I inspect the result here. If there was no result, it just returns the location that you wanted initially, and then this is then going to get passed on to the next function. But if it did find a hit, it then tries to adjust the Z offset a little bit by whatever you've specified here in the Z offset here. It defaults to 500 just to move it up a little bit. Then it's back into the spawn from class function, returning this new location or the original location if it couldn't find anything, and then it's just simply calling this spawn actor here. I've changed this now to just ignore collisions because it works better, and then it has to do a callback to the C++ class indicating it did manage to spawn something, and so the C++ class can then manage this array. So that's how this guy works. I'm going to switch on debugging here. I think I'm debugging on the seahorse. So then each of these, there's 4 or 5 here. How many here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 critter environment spawners, and each spawn a different class. This one is responsible for the seahorse, and then the crab, the turtle, the shellfish, the jellyfish. Oh my! And then there's the silverfish flock is also in here. If I switch on debugging, you will see the sphere trace happening in a few seconds. There we go. So you see those red? That's where it decided to spawn them. The crabs are obviously, they've got gravity on them, so they're all gonna die down there. Stupid crabs. And then what else? Where's my silverfish flock? No idea. They spawn only after 12 seconds. See if I can get some. In here you can see the other characters, and then, oh, there we go. So 2 of them spawn there. They're obviously fully interactive, so you can interact with them. And that guy's got nothing to do with this. He's an AI character testing. I'm just going to move off here into another direction. So then if we go back here to this area, those guys will be gone, and new ones are now going to start spawning in their place. So that's how the list is maintained in the C++ class. It's really a simple concept, but it does help a lot with performance. Instead of having 20 or 30 of these spawners all over the place ticking away and figuring out where the player is and if they're in range, whether or not they should spawn. And the cool thing is it also works for internal levels. So if you have geometry like I have here, this geometry is if you sphere cast from the top in, it's not going to hit until because it'll go straight through. Like you can swim straight through here. There's no collision going the wrong way, but if you go the other way, then there is collision. So I use that to my advantage because now I can spawn critters in internal levels. The disadvantage of that is it may hit up here and it may spawn up there, so they might spawn outside of the level. But I'm okay with that because you're going to be swimming around and they'll just get cold eventually anyway. And you can also then obviously tightly control how many of these guys you want in your level. And now it's gone and spawned a flock inside here. Typically I wouldn't use the flock, the critter environment spawner inside an internal level. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's do the crabs. Alrighty. Thanks.